Good evening. My name's Tony Wolf. From the mid-70s through 6 or 7 years ago, I was working and I was outside and maintained a few of these gardens here, but just kept them going, nothing special. I just didn't have the time to do it. But since I retired, I've been concentrating on expanding what I call the formal gardens, which is 11 or 12 plots in and through this area. And then actually adding a featured garden almost one a year, each year. I've tried different things in the formal gardens, and I'm not afraid to try different things, but I'm sure there's a lot more things I could do. But once I get to what I really enjoy, I kind of repeat it. Like my begonia garden, that's the first garden. Red, white, pinks, begonias in circles. I like it, so I kind of repeat that. In my yellow garden, I kind of keep that going. In my zinnia gardens. So for most part on the formal gardens over this period of time, I've gotten used to what I've got, so not trying different things. But always willing to listen to potential suggestions because I know there's a lot I don't know and can further improve it. But I'm looking to have the formal gardens look pretty and look the best they can look at. So I'm enjoying doing that. It's been interesting with certain of the flowers I have bring back memories of different people in the family. My sister Amy, who was the eldest of the family, has given me 7 different kinds of daylilies, which I've got in the front yard and the backyard, and they're just gorgeous. And they start blooming, the purples start blooming in early June, and then the oranges come and the reds come, so there's always a period of time that one of those daylilies is blooming. She also introduced me to the hydrangeas. So I've got some white hydrangea trees and some pink and purple, blue smaller bushes. So I'm fond of those, so thank you to my sister Amy. My second oldest sister, Heidi, who's passed, used to like her different flowers, and she used to take care of the rock garden, which I'm only beginning to look at now. So I've enjoyed working on that in remembrance of her. My brother John likes roses, and he helped teach me how to learn to take care of my roses, and they were spectacular this year. They're just covered with blooms, and I think I'm going to get 2 more blooms, so they're starting to bloom again. But thanks to him, and I remember him. My sister Pam daughter got married, and we actually had the wedding here 3 years ago. And she introduced me to gladiolas. Those are her favorites. So I do have some gladiolas that I remember, help me remember my sister Pam, and her husband Joe gave me a number of big hostas, which I have down by the shed. I had a friend, a dear friend, Dr. Chung Kim, who's passed away, who's given me a number of cactus. And cactus they're very interesting. During the winter, they look like they're dead and you can throw them away, but come March and April, they start blooming. And one of the most interesting things is they got a beautiful yellow bloom one day each. So I always look forward to that in June. And finally, my daughter Jennifer was very helpful in selecting what is a new hedge along Gale Ave. We used to have an English hawthorn hedge that was here forever, but got diseased and had to be replaced. And so Jennifer did some research and introduced me to northern bayberry. And if she's right, it's going to grow 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide and take very little pruning to take care of. It's got a nice fragrance and berries that the birds like. So this is the fourth year, and they're now 7 feet high. They started off a foot high, so they've been growing more than a foot a year. So I'll always be thinking of Jennifer when I see the bayberry hedge. I was asked about, do I have any particular problems with pests? Well, who doesn't? My bunnies love marigolds. So I put the marigolds out for the bunnies and let them eat them. They leave everything else alone. No zinnias, no, the marigolds. They like the short marigolds and the tall marigolds. I tried some of that spray, keep the bunnies away, but it didn't work. It's been suggested I use some dried blood type of thing, so I might try that, but I've got enough flowers to share. And I guess when I get to the point where I'm almost perfect, then I'll maybe care a little bit more about it. But right now, it's okay. I left my marigolds in my formal gardens. I've just been eating my marigolds over at the tennis court garden. I guess I was asked about any one feature that is special, and I think that would be my sundial right here. That's been here forever, and whenever it's sunny, I can come out and tell what time it is. If I had a dream come true, I would have an irrigation system here. That's probably not going to happen. I spend maybe 2.5, 3 hours every other day doing the watering and lugging the hose around. But other than lugging the hose, I don't really mind being out watering. It's just yanking the hose back and forth. So maybe I can come up with a plan to improve or shorten the time it takes to move the hoses around. But so I water the formal gardens and lug the hose down to the front lawn gardens and then lug the hose down to my greenhouse gardens. So that's about an hour and a half to do over here, and then maybe an hour to do the pond garden and the tennis court garden. Each year I've taken a special area and added a garden each year. And I think 5 or 6 years ago, probably if I was to list it, the most special thing we've done is my sister Pat and I created what we call a tiered garden. This was developed on one of the mounds of recycled leaves. I maybe mentioned or didn't mention earlier that for 25 years we've been composting and our leaves and grass clippings, and we've ended up with 6 or 7 different piles of composted or mulch. It's mulch for 3 or 5 years, then we call it compost after that. And on the first pile that was started 25 years ago, ended about 18 years ago, we've now planted miscellaneous different things. And we had a second pile that we converted, and we brought timbers, and we got 4 different levels of it, what we call a tiered garden. And we use that for extra zinnias, extra this or that we have, and we can use those to fill in. Like we got one little animal, chipmunk, that likes the begonias, so I've had to replace a few begonias. But we use a tiered garden for extra plants and replacement. So that's just my favorite feature is the tiered garden that we've created. But we've done a hydrangea garden. We've done a front semicircular garden in front. We've done a garden around the tool shed. This year I started to do what I call a cutting garden. I do have a dozen extra snapdragon plants that I've got growing there. And I bring those in because I don't like to cut my formal garden ones. So that's worked well. The tennis court garden, which I may have mentioned earlier, is really a 5 or 6 year project. So it used to be a clay tennis court. I've covered it with mulch and grass seed, and then dug in lines like a doubles tennis court, and started different kinds of plants, and that's a work in progress. So I like my some of the flowers I've got there. Our geraniums are doing well. Uh, Marigolds, the bunnies like those. I've tried pansies, but pansies don't like the July and August. So come back in 3 or 4 or 5 years, and by then, if I have a 5 year plan, it's working on the tennis court. The other new garden I've got planned is down behind my vegetable garden is going to be my foxglove garden, because in my first mound garden, I ended up with well over 100 foxgloves that just seed themselves. So I used to have a double blackberry patch. I've cleaned that out. I'm weeding it, and I'm going to move my first year foxgloves that are growing in my compost pile. And there got to be at least 100. And they're all going to get transplanted, and I'll take the seeds from this year's foxgloves, which should be ready in a couple of weeks. And I'll throw those down. So I'll have an area about equal to this. I expect to have well over 100 foxgloves there. So that's one of my projects. But I take it, one step at a time. And when it gets done, it gets done. And I always enjoy coming out and deadheading and weeding, and I enjoy it. It's fun.